You know that feeling when you check your bank account and instead of instantly closing the app in fear, you actually smile for a second, like when you stop wondering whether you can afford a simple coffee or if buying groceries means eating noodles for the rest of the week. There's a certain number where this shift happens, and it's not what most people think. Most financial experts will tell you that you need $1 million to feel rich, or that earning 6 figures is the real milestone. But here's the thing most of them miss: there's actually a much smaller number that completely changes the way you think about money, and once you reach it, everything feels different. That number is $20,000. My name is Riva, and I spend a lot of time studying money, financial psychology, and why some people manage to build wealth almost effortlessly while others stay stuck in the same financial cycle for years. If you want to understand the real mechanics behind building wealth instead of just hoping things get better someday, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if it helps you start thinking about money differently. Now, before we talk about why $20,000 is such a powerful milestone, let me ask you something. When you imagine wealth building, what picture comes to mind? Maybe you imagine someone who inherited money and never had to struggle, or maybe you picture someone working non-stop for decades, slowly stacking dollars one by one. But the truth is, wealth building doesn't actually work the way most people think. Here's what really happens. There are certain financial thresholds that act like invisible walls. Once you cross them, the entire game changes, and $20,000 is the first major threshold that separates people who will eventually build real wealth from those who stay stuck living paycheck to paycheck. The crazy part? Most people don't even realize this threshold exists. Think about it like pushing a heavy boulder up a hill. At the beginning, it feels almost impossible. You're pushing with all your strength, sweating, barely seeing progress, and constantly wondering if it's even worth it. But once the boulder starts gaining momentum, something interesting happens. It begins to move faster and easier, and once it reaches the top, gravity actually starts helping you instead of fighting you. That $20,000 mark is the moment your financial boulder reaches the top of the hill. Before that point, it feels like everything is working against you. After that point, it finally feels like money starts working with you. But here's where things get even more interesting. The difference isn't just mathematical, it's psychological. When you don't have savings, your brain operates in what psychologists call survival mode. Every financial decision is filtered through fear. You accept the first job you can get, even if it's terrible, because you can't risk being unemployed. You stay in situations you hate because leaving feels dangerous. You say yes to things you don't really want just because you need the money. When you're stuck in survival mode, your brain literally can't focus on growth or opportunity. It's like trying to plan your dream vacation while your house is on fire. Your mind is completely occupied by short-term survival. But something powerful happens when you cross that $20,000 mark. Suddenly your brain has room to think differently. Instead of asking, "How do I survive until the next paycheck?" you start asking, "How can I grow this money?" Instead of reacting to every financial emergency, you start planning for the future. Research from Vanguard actually shows that having just $2,000 in emergency savings increases financial well-being by about 21%, just $2,000. That's less than what many people spend on a vacation or a new phone, but that small safety net creates a huge psychological shift. And when your emergency fund reaches 3 to 6 months of living expenses, which for many people lands somewhere around $20,000, your financial confidence increases even more. At that point, you've created enough breathing room to think about building wealth, not just protecting yourself from disaster. Now let's talk about the math, because this is where things get exciting. Imagine you're saving $1,000 every month and earning an 8% return on investments. Reaching your first $20,000 takes around 19 months of consistent saving and investing. That's almost a year and a half of discipline, and honestly, many people quit before they get there. But here's the part that surprises most people. Your second $20,000 doesn't take another 19 months, it takes about 17 months. Why? Because now that first $20,000 is also working for you, your money starts generating its own returns, so you're not doing all the work anymore. Your money is helping. By the time you're chasing your third $20,000, the timeline shrinks even further. And eventually the numbers become almost unbelievable. Once your investments reach around $400,000, your portfolio can generate another $20,000 in about 5 months with the same average return. The same amount that once took you 2 years to save is now happening almost automatically. That's the power of compound growth. But here's something many people misunderstand. You don't need secret investments or exclusive financial opportunities to reach this point. You can use the exact same index funds, the same brokers, and the same basic strategy that anyone else can use. The only real difference is scale. A 10% return on $1,000 gives you $100. A 10% return on $10,000 gives you $1,000, and a 10% return on $20,000 gives you $2,000. Suddenly, your investment returns start to feel meaningful when your investments reach $20,000. Earning 8% annually means about $1,600 per year appearing in your account without you doing anything. Money that didn't come from your job, money that appeared simply because your money was working. But the most important thing about saving $20,000 isn't the money itself, it's what it does to your mindset. Because saving $20,000 from zero requires something extremely valuable, discipline. You had to track your spending, you had to say no to things you wanted, you had to resist the urge to spend your savings on random purchases. Most importantly, you had to stay consistent for months or even years, and during that process, you proved something to yourself. You proved that you control your money, not the other way around. That identity shift changes everything. Before saving $20,000, buying a $4 coffee might have required mental calculations. After reaching that milestone, you stop worrying about small things because you know you have control over the big ones. Another psychological shift also happens around this level. You start seeing opportunities instead of threats. When you live paycheck to paycheck, every unexpected expense feels like a crisis. Your car breaks, your laptop dies, your rent increases. Everything feels like a financial emergency. But when you have $20,000 saved, those situations become minor inconveniences, and even better, you start noticing opportunities you couldn't take before. Maybe a friend is starting a business and needs investors. Maybe you see a great deal on a property. Maybe there's a career conference that could boost your future. Before, you had to ignore these chances. Now you can actually consider them. That's what people mean when they say money attracts money. It's not magic, it's simply that. Money creates options, and options create opportunities. Another surprising thing happens once you reach this level. You stop obsessing over small expenses. Instead, you start focusing on the big financial decisions. When you're broke, you stress about everything. Brand cereal or generic? Coffee shop or homemade coffee? Premium gas or regular? But once you build a solid financial base, you realize these small choices barely affect your long-term wealth. The decisions that really matter are much bigger: where you live, what car you drive, how much you save, where you invest. These choices can impact your wealth by tens of thousands of dollars over time. And finally, there's One more powerful change that happens once you save $20,000, your relationship with work changes. When you live paycheck to paycheck, you're trapped in your job, you can't risk quitting. You can't negotiate strongly, you can't take chances, but with $20,000 saved, you gain something incredibly powerful: walking away money. You could leave your job and survive for months while finding something better. That doesn't mean you should quit immediately, but it means you're negotiating from strength, not desperation. You become more confident, more assertive, more willing to ask for raises and opportunities, and ironically, that confidence often leads to more success and higher income. But here's where many people make a huge mistake. They finally reach $20,000, feel proud of themselves, and then immediately spend it, maybe on a new car, maybe on a luxury vacation, maybe on something they can't truly afford. Don't do that. That $20,000 isn't a reward. It's the foundation of your financial future. It's the seed that can grow into real wealth. If you let it compound over time, look, $20,000 won't make you rich overnight, but it will completely change how you think about money. It's the difference between surviving and building a future. So start building that foundation today. Because your future self is counting on the decision you make right now, and trust me, they'll be grateful you started.